The massive station called Zenith Prime floated in the darkness of space like a silver wheel. Thousands of ships from across the galaxy docked at its ports every day. Today was special. The Galactic Council was meeting for its yearly gathering, and representatives from 200 different worlds were arriving. Ambassador Chen stepped off the human shuttle and looked around the docking bay. She had been to this station twice before, but the sight still amazed her. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the corridors. Some walked on two legs like humans. Others floated, crawled, or slithered. Some were tall as trees. Others were small as cats. Chen adjusted her formal uniform and picked up her datapad. Her assistant, a young man named David, walked beside her carrying their luggage. This was humanity's third year as provisional members of the council. Chen wanted to make a good impression. Earth was still new to galactic politics, and every meeting mattered. "Nervous?" David asked quietly as they moved through the security checkpoint. "Always," Chen admitted, "but that's part of the job." The security scanner beeped as they passed through. A four-armed alien in a uniform checked their credentials and waved them forward. Everything was in order. Chen and David made their way to the diplomatic quarters, where they would stay for the next week. The halls of Zenith Prime were beautiful. Lights shifted in colors that human eyes could barely see. The walls showed images of peaceful worlds and great achievements. Music played softly, though it sounded strange to human ears. This place was meant to represent unity and peace among all species. Chen reached their assigned rooms and unpacked quickly. She had several meetings scheduled over the next few days. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, scientific partnerships. Earth had much to learn from older civilizations, and surprisingly, much to teach as well. Human mathematics and engineering had impressed many species. Human art and music had found admirers across the galaxy. That evening, Chen dressed in her best diplomatic attire and headed to the Grand Hall for the opening banquet. This was where representatives from all worlds gathered to share food and conversation. It was meant to build friendships and trust before the formal sessions began. The Grand Hall was enormous. Tables stretched in long rows, each decorated with flowers and plants from different worlds. Thousands of aliens filled the space, their voices creating a constant hum of conversation in hundreds of languages. Chen's translator implant worked hard to keep up, feeding meanings directly into her mind. She found her assigned table and sat down. Around her were representatives from 6 other species. There was a Vexian, tall and thin with purple skin and large black eyes. Next to him sat a Quilnari, covered in soft green fur and barely taller than a human child. Across from Chen was a Felixian, who looked almost cat-like with pointed ears and a tail. The others were equally diverse. "Ambassador Chen," the Vexian said, his translator making his voice sound smooth and formal. "Welcome back to the summit. How is Earth?" "Thriving," Chen replied with a smile. "We've established 3 new orbital stations since last year. Our Mars colony now has 5,000 permanent residents." The aliens at the table made approving sounds. The Quilnari's fur rippled with color, which Chen had learned was a sign of happiness. "Remarkable progress for such a young, spacefaring species," she said in a high, musical voice. Servers began bringing food to the tables. Chen looked at the dishes with curiosity. Most were unfamiliar. There were bowls of something that looked like blue soup, plates of what might have been vegetables, though the colors were wrong. A platter held small cubes of compressed nutrients. Everything was carefully labeled with its ingredients and origin world. Chen took small portions of several items. She had learned to be adventurous with alien food. Some of it tasted wonderful, some tasted terrible, but trying was part of diplomacy. The Felixian representative, whose name was Crix, picked up one of the nutrient cubes and ate it delicately. "Tell me, Ambassador, what sort of food do humans prefer? We find that dietary preferences reveal much about a culture." Chen thought about the question while chewing something that tasted like sweet mushrooms. "Humans are omnivores," she said. "We eat many different things." The word omnivore made several aliens at the table pause. The Vexian tilted his head. Omni-consumer? You eat both plants and insects? Plants, yes, Chen said, but not many insects. Some cultures on Earth do eat insects, but most humans prefer other protein sources. What other sources? Asked the Quilnari, her fur now shifting to a curious orange color. Meat, Chen said simply. From animals. We raise livestock and also hunt wild game. The table went very quiet. Chen suddenly realized that something was wrong. The aliens were all staring at her with expressions she couldn't quite read. The Vexian's large eyes had grown even larger. The Quilnari's fur had turned a pale, washed-out color. Crix, the Felixian, had stopped eating entirely. You hunt? The Vexian finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. You pursue living creatures and kill them? Well, yes, Chen said, confused by their reactions. Humans have been hunters for most of our history. We also farm animals, cows, pigs, chickens, fish. It's a normal part of our diet. The Quilnari made a sound like a squeak and covered her mouth with her small hands. Around them, other aliens at nearby tables had stopped talking. They were listening to the conversation with growing shock. Forgive me, Ambassador, the Vexian said carefully, but I must understand this clearly. You are saying that humans deliberately kill other living creatures for food? Not scavenging creatures that have already died naturally, but active predation? That's correct, Chen said. She was starting to feel defensive. Is this a problem? The Felixian stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. I need some air, Crix said, and walked quickly away from the table. Chen looked at David, who had been sitting at the next table. He looked as confused as she felt. What had just happened? Why were the aliens reacting this way? The Vexian composed himself and leaned forward. Ambassador Chen, in the Galactic Council there are 3 types of dietary classifications. Herbivores, who eat plants. Insectivores, who eat small insect-like creatures. And scavengers, who consume the bodies of creatures that have died naturally. Predation, active hunting and killing, is considered barbaric. It is practiced only by species we call the unenlightened, those who have not yet developed civilization. Chen felt her stomach drop. But humans are civilized, she protested. We have technology, art, philosophy, laws. We've reached the stars. Yes, the Vexian agreed, which is why this is so confusing and disturbing to us. How can a species be both civilized and predatory? These things should not be possible together. Around the Grand Hall, word was spreading. Aliens were turning to look at the human table. Some looked curious. Many looked frightened. A few looked disgusted. Chen realized with growing horror that humanity had just revealed something about themselves that the galaxy was not ready to accept. She had walked into a cultural minefield without even knowing it existed. The banquet continued, but the mood had changed completely. The opening celebration had become the beginning of a crisis. The emergency meeting was called for the next morning. Chen barely slept. She spent the night reading through galactic cultural databases, trying to understand how badly she had miscalculated. David helped her prepare a presentation, though neither of them fully understood what they were defending against. Maybe it won't be that bad, David said hopefully, as dawn broke over the artificial horizon of Zenith Prime. Chen shook her head. I've received 17 formal requests for clarification and 4 demands for immediate explanation. The council is scared, David. We need to handle this carefully. The council chamber was a circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Normally, a few dozen representatives attended daily sessions. Today, every seat was filled. Chen counted over 300 aliens, all present to hear about human dietary practices. She walked to the center platform, her footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. A holographic projector waited for her presentation. Chen took a deep breath and began. Honored representatives, she said, her voice amplified throughout the room. Yesterday, I mentioned that humans eat meat. This caused concern, and rightfully so. Today, I want to give you a complete picture of human food culture so that we can address these concerns with full understanding. She activated the first hologram. It showed a timeline of human history, starting from primitive hunters with spears to modern farming operations. Humans evolved as omnivores. Our bodies are designed to process both plant and animal matter. For most of our history, this was necessary for survival. The aliens watched silently. Chen moved to the next image. It showed a simple meal, grilled chicken with vegetables and rice. To her, it looked delicious and normal. She heard gasps from the audience. "This is a typical human meal," Chen explained. "The white meat comes from a bird we call a chicken. We have domesticated chickens for thousands of years, raising them specifically for food and eggs." A Quilnari representative stood up, her fur flashing red with agitation. "You breed living creatures just to kill them? This is worse than we thought." Chen tried to stay calm. "We also ensure they have good lives. Modern farms follow strict welfare standards. The animals are fed, sheltered, and cared for until they are humanely processed." "Humanely processed," repeated a Vexian elder, his voice dripping with disbelief. "You have created pleasant words for murder." The room erupted in angry chittering, hooting, and various sounds of distress. Chen waited for the noise to die down. This was going even worse than she had feared. "Let me show you more of our food culture," Chen said, changing the hologram. She showed images of sushi, hoping the beauty of the presentation might help. It did not. The sight of raw fish made several delegates reach for medical aids. She showed a perfectly cooked steak. 2 representatives fainted and had to be carried out. She showed a roasted turkey, traditional for human celebrations. A Felixian diplomat vomited into a waste receptacle. "Please," Chen said desperately, "you must understand that humans are not cruel. We don't kill for pleasure. We eat these animals because it is part of our biology, our culture, our history." "Show us the worst," demanded a large, crystalline being from a species Chen didn't recognize. "Show us the most extreme example of human predation. We need to know what we are truly dealing with." Chen hesitated. She looked at David, who sat in the observer section looking pale and worried. He shook his head slightly, but Chen knew she couldn't hide the truth. If they discovered it later, the betrayal would be worse. "Very well," she said quietly. She pulled up new images. "Humans don't just eat domesticated animals. We also hunt wild creatures. And sometimes we hunt and eat the apex predators of our world." The hologram showed a shark, sleek, powerful, filled with rows of sharp teeth. "This is a great white shark. In Earth's oceans, it is one of the top predators. It can grow to 6 meters long and weigh over 2 tons. Its bite force is 18,000 newtons. Humans hunt sharks and eat their meat." The chamber fell into complete silence. It was the silence of total shock. Chen continued, knowing she had to push through. "This is a bear." The hologram showed a massive grizzly bear standing on its hind legs, roaring. "They can weigh 800 pounds and kill a human with a single strike. We hunt them." "This is an alligator, an ancient predator with jaws that can crush bone. We eat them too." "This is a venomous snake that can kill with its bite. In some regions of Earth, it's considered a delicacy." A Quilnari elder stood, her entire body trembling. "This is insanity. On my world, we have one apex predator. One. It lives in the deepest forests and is so dangerous that we built our cities to avoid it completely. It has killed perhaps 20 of my people in the last 1,000 years. We consider it a catastrophic threat. And you are telling us that you have hundreds of such creatures and you hunt them for food?" "Yes," Chen said simply, "because there was no other answer to give." "How?" asked a Vexian scientist, his voice filled with genuine confusion. "How did your species survive to develop civilization? With so many predators, you should have been extinct before you discovered fire. We survived because we became better predators than anything else on our planet, Chen said. We used tools, intelligence, and cooperation. We hunted in groups. We created weapons. We learned to track, to plan, to outlast creatures that were stronger and faster than us. Another hologram appeared, this one showing a group of early humans chasing an antelope across a plain. Humans can't run as fast as most prey animals, but we can run longer. We would chase animals for hours, sometimes days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. Then we would take them. This is called persistence hunting. A Phylixian doctor stood up. I need to understand the biology. How can one species be both predator and prey? It defies evolutionary logic. On Earth, almost every species is both, Chen explained. Humans are prey to large predators when we are alone and unarmed. We are predators when we have tools and work together. This is normal on our world. The food chain is not a simple line. It's a complex web where everything eats and is eaten. She showed an image of Earth's ecosystem with lines connecting thousands of species in an intricate pattern of predator and prey relationships. The aliens stared at it like it was a nightmare made real. Your world is a death trap, someone whispered. Chen felt a flash of anger. Our world is beautiful. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, we had to fight to survive. But that struggle made us who we are. It taught us cooperation, innovation, and respect for the power of nature. Every meal reminds us that we are part of a larger cycle of life and death. You speak of respect, said an elderly Vexian, but I see only violence. You kill creatures that could kill you. This is not respect. This is warfare disguised as dinner. Then you don't understand, Chen said firmly. Humans don't take killing lightly. We have rules about hunting, laws about animal welfare. We argue constantly about the ethics of our diet. Many humans choose not to eat meat at all because they struggle with the moral weight of it. But those who do eat meat understand what it costs. We know that life feeds on life. We don't pretend otherwise. The session continued for hours. Chen showed cooking techniques, explained agriculture, discussed nutrition. She answered hundreds of questions, some genuinely curious, most horrified. By the time the session ended, she was exhausted and hoarse. As the delegates filed out, Chen heard their conversations. Words like dangerous, savage, and unenlightened floated back to her. A group of Quilnari representatives were already composing a formal motion to expel humanity from the council. David approached her as she left the platform. That was brutal, he said. It's going to get worse, Chen replied. She checked her data pad and saw the news alerts. The session had been broadcast across the entire galaxy. Humanity's dietary practices were now the most talked about topic in civilized space. The comments ranged from horrified to morbidly fascinated. Some species were calling for immediate quarantine of human space. Others wanted humanity expelled from the council entirely. A few scientists were asking for more information, curious about how such a species could exist. Chen's communicator beeped. It was a message from Earth's government. They had seen the broadcast and wanted a full report. They were concerned about trade agreements being canceled and alliances falling apart. What do we do now? David asked. Chen looked at the message and then at the emptying council chamber. We defend ourselves. We make them understand, or we lose everything humanity has worked for in galactic society. She just hoped it wasn't already too late. The galactic news networks could talk about nothing else. Every channel, every feed, every discussion forum was filled with debates about humanity. Chen watched the coverage from her quarters, feeling helpless as the situation spiraled beyond her control. Breaking news from the Harmony Block, announced a Vexian news anchor, his large eyes reflecting the studio lights. 17 member species have signed a petition demanding humanity's immediate removal from the Galactic Council. They cite safety concerns and incompatibility with civilized norms. The screen switched to an interview with a Quilnari political leader. Her fur was bright red with agitation. We cannot share space with apex predators. It goes against everything the Council stands for. Peace, harmony, mutual understanding. How can we have these things with a species that hunts and kills? David turned off the screen. You should stop watching this. It's not helping. I need to know what we're facing, Chen said. She rubbed her tired eyes. It had been 3 days since the presentation, and things were only getting worse. Her communicator chimed. Another message. She had received hundreds since the session. Some were supportive, mostly from species that valued scientific curiosity over fear. But most were angry, frightened, or disgusted. This message was different. It came from the Progressive Union, a coalition of species that believed in cultural tolerance and diversity. They wanted to meet with her privately. Maybe this is good news, David said hopefully. Chen wasn't optimistic, but she agreed to the meeting. An hour later, she sat in a small conference room with 5 representatives from different species. They all looked uncomfortable. A tall, insect-like being named Zix spoke first. Ambassador Chen, the Progressive Union wants to support humanity's continued membership in the Council, but we need your help. We need you to compromise. What kind of compromise? Chen asked carefully. Stop eating meat, said a Felixian named Rena. She was younger than most diplomats, and her voice was gentle but firm. Just stop. Adopt a plant-based diet like most civilized species. Show the galaxy that humans can change, can grow beyond your predatory past. Chen felt a weight in her chest. I can't promise that. I don't have the authority to change the dietary practices of 8 billion people. Then get the authority, Zix insisted. Contact your government. Make it happen. It's the only way to save humanity's place in galactic society. Chen stood up. You're asking us to change something fundamental about who we are. Our relationship with food goes back millions of years. It's tied to our culture, our traditions, our very biology. I can't just erase that. Then you are choosing extinction in galactic society, Rena said sadly. The vote will happen next week. Without a significant gesture, humanity will be expelled. Chen left the meeting feeling worse than before. Even her potential allies wanted humans to become something they weren't. She walked through the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, 40 light-years away. So far, but right now it felt even farther. Her communicator chimed again. This time it was an emergency alert. She opened it and felt her blood run cold. A human cargo ship, the Frontier Dream, had been boarded by station security at a major trading hub. They had found the cargo hold filled with preserved Earth foods, including packages of dried meat. The captain, a woman named Rodriguez, had been offering samples to alien dock workers as a friendly gesture. One of those workers, a Felixian, had accepted. The Felixian was now in a hospital, suffering from severe psychological trauma. The news was everywhere. Images of the contaminated alien being treated by medical staff filled the screens. Headlines screamed about human food terror and predator culture spreads. Chen rushed back to her quarters and contacted Rodriguez's ship. The captain answered, looking confused and frightened. Ambassador, they've seized my cargo. They're talking about filing charges. I was just being friendly. I didn't know it would cause this reaction. Captain Rodriguez, listen carefully, Chen said. Don't say anything more to station security. I'm contacting a legal representative for you. This is going to become a diplomatic incident. After the call ended, Chen slumped in her chair. David brought her a cup of coffee, one of the few Earth luxuries they had brought with them. She sipped it gratefully. It's falling apart, she said quietly. Everything we've built, all the relationships, the trade agreements, the partnerships, it's all collapsing because we eat meat. Maybe we're looking at this wrong, David said thoughtfully. We've been defending ourselves, trying to justify our practices, but we haven't really helped them understand. They don't want to understand, Chen said bitterly. They want us to be like them. Some do, David agreed. But not all of them. I've been reading the forums, the academic discussions. There are scientists who are genuinely curious. They want to know how we survived on Earth, how we became civilized despite being predators. Maybe we need to focus on education instead of defense. Chen considered this. Education takes time. We have less than a week before the vote. Then we focus on the scientists, David suggested. If we can get them on our side, maybe they can influence the broader population. Chen thought about it. It was a slim hope, but it was something. She pulled up her messages and found one she had received earlier from the Apex Research Institute. They wanted to study humanity's biology and evolution. She had ignored it, too busy dealing with the political crisis. Now she reconsidered. Contact the Institute, she told David. Tell them we accept their invitation. The Apex Research Institute was located in a quieter section of Zenith Prime, away from the political chambers and diplomatic quarters. Chen arrived with David and a third human, Dr. Elena Vasquez, a biologist who had been part of Earth's delegation for unrelated scientific partnerships. The Institute's director was a crystalline being named Thex, who sparkled under the lights. Ambassador Chen, thank you for coming. I know you're dealing with a difficult situation. That's an understatement, Chen said. But I hope we can help each other. You want to understand humanity. We need someone to help explain us to the galaxy. Thex led them to a research lab filled with equipment Chen didn't recognize. Several alien scientists were present, representing different species. All of them looked at the humans with a mixture of curiosity and unease. We've been studying the data you presented, said a Vexian scientist named Kelm. Your world's ecosystem is unlike anything in the known galaxy. The density of predator species is extraordinary. The variety of prey animals is equally remarkable, and the competition for resources is intense. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. Earth is what we call a high-pressure environment. Every species is constantly challenged. Those that can't adapt quickly enough go extinct. Those that survive become incredibly efficient at what they do. She brought up a hologram of a cheetah. This is one of Earth's pursuit predators. It can run over 100 kilometers per hour. It evolved this speed because its prey evolved to run fast. They pushed each other to greater and greater extremes. Fascinating, Thex said, his crystalline body humming with interest. On my world, the fastest land creature moves perhaps 30 kilometers per hour. There was no evolutionary pressure to develop greater speed. Earth is different, Vasquez continued. She showed images of various ecosystems, jungles, oceans, deserts, tundra. Every environment on our planet is filled with life competing for survival. Humans emerged from this crucible. We had to be adaptable, intelligent, and resourceful just to survive. Kelm studied the images carefully. I'm beginning to understand, but I still struggle with one aspect. How did predation not prevent civilization? On every other world, species became civilized only after they had secured their food supply through agriculture and synthesis. They left predation behind as a primitive behavior. Humans did develop agriculture, Chen said, about 12,000 years ago, but we never stopped hunting. The two existed side by side. In fact, some anthropologists believe that hunting large prey required such complex cooperation and planning that it helped develop the cognitive abilities we needed for civilization. She showed images of early human art, cave paintings of hunts, sculptures of prey animals. We've been telling stories about hunting for tens of thousands of years. It's part of our culture, our identity. The hunt taught us to work together, to plan ahead, to understand animal behavior. A small furry scientist named Pip spoke up. But surely modern humans don't need to hunt anymore. You have technology. Why continue such a dangerous and barbaric practice? Dr. Vasquez smiled. Some humans do still hunt, but you're right that most of us get our meat from farms now. However, we continue to eat meat because our bodies are adapted for it. Humans can survive on a plant-only diet, but it requires careful planning to get all necessary nutrients. Meat provides complete proteins and certain vitamins that are hard to get from plants alone. Couldn't you just synthesize those nutrients? Pip asked. We could, Vasquez admitted. Some humans choose to, but many others value the cultural and traditional aspects of eating meat. It connects them to their history, their families, their heritage. The scientists talked among themselves in their various languages. Chen's translator implant struggled to keep up with all the overlapping conversations. Finally, Thex spoke again. I think I understand better now, but understanding and acceptance are different things. The galaxy is afraid of humanity, Ambassador. How do we change that? Chen didn't have a good answer. She was saved from responding by an alert on her communicator. Another message, this one marked urgent. She opened it and read quickly, her expression hardening. What is it? David asked. The Prey Liberation Front, Chen said. They're an extremist group opposed to any form of predation. They've infiltrated a human colony ship, and they're broadcasting footage to the entire galaxy. What kind of footage? Fex asked. Chen pulled up the broadcast on a large screen. The scientists gathered around to watch. The footage showed the inside of a human colony ship's mess hall. Families sat at tables, eating their meals. Children laughed and played. Everything looked peaceful and normal. This is what they're upset about? Kelm asked, confused. Then the camera zoomed in on the food. Meat dishes, fish, chicken, beef. The footage was being narrated by someone from the Prey Liberation Front, describing each dish in horrified tones. But something unexpected was happening in the comments section of the broadcast. Thousands of aliens were watching, but the reactions weren't all negative. Some were surprised, some were curious, many were asking questions. Look at the humans, one comment read. They're not savage, they're just eating dinner with their families. The broadcast continued, and Chen realized something. The extremists had meant to expose human barbarism, but they had accidentally shown something else. They had shown humanity. The broadcast continued to play across the galaxy. The Prey Liberation Front had intended to show horror, but what millions of aliens saw instead was surprisingly ordinary. Human families eating together, friends sharing meals, children being taught table manners by their parents. Dr. Vasquez watched the footage carefully. This could actually help us, she said quietly. Look at how they're eating. See that family in the corner? They're holding hands and saying a prayer before their meal. Chen saw it too. An older human woman, surrounded by what appeared to be her children and grandchildren, was speaking with her head bowed. The camera had picked up her words. We are grateful for this food, for the lives that sustain us, and for the hands that prepared it. What is she doing? Asked Pip, the small furry scientist. It's a prayer of thanks, Chen explained. Many human cultures have rituals around meals. We acknowledge what we eat. We express gratitude. For some, it's religious. For others, it's simply showing respect. Kelm leaned closer to the screen. Respect for what? The dead animal? For the life that was given, Dr. Vasquez said. Humans understand that eating meat means something died. We don't take that lightly. That's why so many cultures have developed elaborate cooking traditions. We honor what we eat by making it the best it can be. The footage shifted to the ship's kitchen, where several cooks were preparing food. The head chef, a middle-aged man with flour on his apron, was being interviewed by one of the crew members. The Liberation Front clearly hoped his words would be damning. Instead, he spoke with passion and care. Every ingredient tells a story, the chef said, gesturing to his ingredients. This beef came from cattle raised on sustainable farms back on Earth. The farmers I buy from treat their animals well. They live good lives on open pastures. When it's time, the process is quick and painless. I honor their sacrifice by never wasting anything and by cooking with skill and care. He speaks as if the animal's life mattered to him, Tex observed, surprised. It does, Chen said. Good human cooks understand the chain of life that brings food to the table. The best ones talk about ingredients with reverence. The camera followed the chef as he worked. His hands moved with practiced skill, seasoning meat, checking temperatures, tasting and adjusting. He wasn't just cooking, he was creating something. "Why does he spend so much time on preparation?" asked another scientist. "Nutrition is nutrition. Why does presentation matter?" Dr. Vasquez smiled. "Because humans believe that food should be more than fuel. It should be an experience, a pleasure, a form of art. We have a saying, we eat with our eyes first." A beautifully prepared meal shows respect for the ingredients and for the people who will eat it. The broadcast cut to a celebration on the colony ship. Humans had gathered for something called a harvest festival. Long tables were decorated with flowers and candles. Dishes of every kind covered the surfaces. Roasted meats, fresh vegetables, baked breads, colorful desserts. A young human stood up to give a speech. "Today we celebrate the harvest, the hard work of our farmers, and the abundance that sustains us. We remember that we are part of nature's great cycle. We take life to live, and one day we will return to the soil to nourish new life. In this way, nothing is ever truly lost. Everything is connected." The crowd of humans raised their glasses in a toast. They ate, laughed, talked, and celebrated together. The Liberation Front's narrator tried to spin it as barbaric, but the images spoke for themselves. These weren't monsters. They were people sharing a meal and enjoying each other's company. The comments on the broadcast were changing. Chen watched them scroll past. More and more aliens were expressing confusion rather than horror. Some were even asking questions about human cooking. "I don't understand why they make it so complicated," one comment read. "But I have to admit, that food looks beautiful." "They really care about what they eat," another wrote. "Maybe there's more to this than we thought." Chen turned to the gathered scientists. "Do you see? This is what I've been trying to explain. Humans aren't mindless killers. We think deeply about food, life, and death. Our relationship with eating is complex and meaningful." Thex's crystalline body hummed thoughtfully. "I'm beginning to see that, but I still have questions. May I ask you something personal, Ambassador?" "Of course." "Do you eat meat?" Chen nodded. "I do. Not every day, but regularly." "And when you eat it, what do you think about? What do you feel?" Chen considered the question carefully. "I think about flavor first. Good meat, well prepared, tastes wonderful. But I also think about where it came from. I try to buy from ethical sources, places where animals are treated well. And I think about my grandmother, who taught me to cook. She always said that wasting food was the greatest disrespect, so I never waste anything." "You feel no guilt?" Pip asked. "Sometimes I do," Chen admitted. "Many humans struggle with the ethics of eating meat. That's why some choose not to. But personally, I've made peace with it. I accept that I'm part of nature's cycle. A cow eats grass, I eat the cow. Eventually I will die and return to the earth, and something will feed on me. It's all connected." Kelm looked thoughtful. "On my world, we grow everything we eat in laboratories. We broke free from the cycle of life and death. We thought this made us more civilized." "Maybe you didn't break free," Dr. Vasquez suggested. "Maybe you just moved the cycle somewhere you couldn't see it. Plants are alive too. They grow, reproduce, and die. Even synthetic food requires resources taken from somewhere." "But plants don't have consciousness," Pip protested. "They don't suffer." "As far as we know," Vasquez said. "But who can say for certain? The point is that all life feeds on other life in some way. Humans are just more direct about it. We acknowledge what we are, omnivores who need diverse nutrition to thrive. We don't pretend to be something we're not." The broadcast ended, but the conversation it started continued across the galaxy. Within hours, dozens of response videos appeared. Some aliens remained horrified and disgusted, but others were reconsidering their initial reactions. A prominent Zilthian philosopher published an essay that went viral. "Perhaps we civilized species have lost something important," he wrote. "We have sanitized death, hidden it away in laboratories and processing centers. We pretend we are above nature, separate from it. Humans remind us that we are still part of the natural world, whether we like it or not. Maybe there is wisdom in their acceptance of this truth." Not everyone agreed, but the essay sparked serious debate. The conversation was shifting from pure horror to genuine philosophical discussion. Chen received a message from Captain Rodriguez. The charges against her had been dropped. The Felixian dock worker was recovering and had even issued a statement saying he understood now that no harm was intended. The misunderstanding had been cultural, not malicious. More importantly, Chen received an invitation. The Institute wanted to host a demonstration. They wanted Dr. Vasquez to explain human cooking to an audience of scientists and academics. It was a small opportunity, but Chen knew it could make a difference. The demonstration was held in a lecture hall equipped with a kitchen setup. Hundreds of alien scientists attended, either in person or via live stream. Dr. Vasquez stood at the cooking station, calm and confident. "Today I'm going to prepare a simple human meal," she announced, "but I'm not going to use any meat. I want to show you that human cooking skill applies to all ingredients, not just animal products." She had brought vegetables, grains, spices, and oils from Earth. The alien scientists watched with intense curiosity as she began to work. She chopped onions with quick, precise cuts. She heated oil in a pan until it shimmered. She added spices, and the room filled with aromas that made even the aliens pause. "What is that smell?" Kelm asked, his voice filled with wonder. "Garlic and cumin being toasted in oil," Vasquez explained. "Heat transforms their flavors. This is the foundation of many human dishes." She continued cooking, narrating each step. She roasted vegetables until their edges caramelized. She cooked rice with herbs until it was fluffy and fragrant. She created a sauce from tomatoes, reducing it until it concentrated into rich sweetness. The aliens watched in fascination. Many had never seen food prepared this way. Their own meals were typically simple: raw plants, nutrient pastes, or laboratory-grown substances that required no preparation. When Vasquez finished, she had created a beautiful meal: roasted vegetables on seasoned rice with a vibrant red sauce. She plated it carefully, adding a garnish of fresh herbs. "This is completely plant-based," she said. "No animal products at all. But I've applied the same techniques and care that a human chef would use for any ingredient." Vex was the first to try it. He extended a crystalline appendage and took a small portion. His body hummed and flickered with colors. "This is extraordinary," he said, his voice filled with surprise. "I have never experienced flavors like this. The complexity, the layers, the way different tastes work together." Other scientists came forward to try the food. The reactions were universally positive. They had expected something strange or off-putting. Instead, they found something delicious. "How did you learn to do this?" Pip asked, his small face animated with excitement. "Thousands of years of experimentation," Vasquez said. "Humans have been cooking since we discovered fire. Every culture on Earth has developed unique techniques and traditions. We've learned which flavors complement each other, how heat changes texture, which spices enhance which ingredients. It's both science and art." "But why?" asked a Vexian scientist. "Why invest so much effort into food preparation?" Vasquez smiled. "Because eating is one of life's great pleasures. We do it multiple times every day. Why shouldn't it be enjoyable? Why shouldn't it bring us joy?" The scientists had no answer to that. In their cultures, food was merely fuel. The idea that it could be a source of pleasure, an art form, a way to show love and care was foreign to them. "If you can make plants taste this good," Thex said slowly, "I'm beginning to understand why you develop such elaborate cooking for meat as well. You're not just eating to survive, you're celebrating food itself." Exactly, Chen said, stepping forward. Human cuisine is about gratitude, skill, and joy. Yes, we eat meat, but we do so with awareness and respect. We honor what we eat by making it the best it can be. That's the part the galaxy needs to understand. The demonstration ended, but its impact rippled outward. Videos of the cooking spread across galactic networks. Aliens who had been horrified by human dietary practices were now curious. Some even wanted to try human cooking for themselves, as long as it was plant-based. For the first time since the crisis began, Chen felt a glimmer of hope. The day of the council vote arrived. Chen dressed carefully in her formal diplomatic uniform, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. The demonstrations and discussions had helped shift public opinion, but she didn't know if it was enough. David brought her a final report. "The polling is close," he said. 40% want to expel us, 35% want us to stay, 25% are undecided. It could go either way. Chen nodded and headed to the council chamber. The massive room was packed with representatives from across the galaxy. Cameras broadcast to billions of viewers. This vote would determine humanity's future in galactic society. The session began with formal speeches. The Harmony Bloc presented their case for expulsion. A Quilnari elder spoke passionately about safety concerns and cultural incompatibility. "We cannot normalize predation," she declared. "To do so would be to abandon the principles upon which the Galactic Council was founded." The Progressive Union countered with arguments for tolerance and diversity. "Humanity has broken no laws," their spokesperson said. "They have been honest about who they are. To expel them for their nature would be the true abandonment of our principles." Then it was Chen's turn to speak. She walked to the center platform, her heart pounding. The entire galaxy was watching. "Honored representatives," she began, "I stand before you not to defend humanity's right to eat meat. That is not what this vote is truly about. This vote is about whether the Galactic Council has room for species that are different, species that challenge your understanding of civilization, species that don't fit neatly into your categories." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humans are predators. This is true. We evolved on a dangerous world where we had to fight for survival every day. But we didn't let that make us cruel or mindless. Instead, we developed compassion, creativity, and culture. We created art, music, philosophy, and science. We reached for the stars. We did all of this while being honest about what we are." The chamber was silent. Chen continued. "Some of you believe that civilization means leaving nature behind. Humans believe that civilization means understanding nature and our place in it. We don't pretend to be above the cycle of life and death. We accept it, honor it, and try to participate in it as ethically as we can." She activated a hologram showing Earth. The blue and green planet rotated slowly. "This is our world. It's beautiful and deadly in equal measure. It made us strong, adaptable, and intelligent, but it also taught us something important, that life is precious because it is finite. Every meal is a reminder that something gave its life so we could continue ours. How could we not treat that with respect?" A Vexian representative stood. "You speak of respect, Ambassador, but words are easy. How do we know humans truly feel this way?" Before Chen could answer, Captain Rodriguez stood up from the observer section. "May I speak?" she called out. Chen was surprised but nodded. Rodriguez walked down to join her on the platform. The cargo captain looked uncomfortable in the formal setting, but her voice was steady. "I'm the one who caused the incident at the trading station," Rodriguez said. "I offered dried meat to a Felixian worker, and he ended up traumatized. I've been thinking about that a lot, about why something so normal to me was so horrible to him." She looked around at the assembled aliens. "I've been a cargo captain for 15 years. I've hauled everything from mining equipment to luxury goods. But my favorite cargo is always food. You know why? Because when I deliver food to a colony or a station, I know I'm bringing something that will make people happy. Food isn't just fuel to humans. It's comfort, celebration, memory, and love. Rodriguez pulled out a small package from her pocket. This is the dried meat I offered. It's called jerky. My grandmother taught me how to make it when I was a kid. Every batch I make uses her recipe. When I eat it, I think of her. I remember summer afternoons in her kitchen, learning to season the meat just right. I remember her telling me stories about her life. That's what this food means to me. It's a connection to my family, my past, my culture. She held up the package. I understand now that to the Felixian worker, this just looked like death. But to me, it's love in edible form. That's the gap we need to bridge. We need to help you see what we see. Rodriguez's words had an impact. Chen saw it in the way some of the representatives leaned forward, their expressions thoughtful rather than hostile. Another human stood up. It was Dr. Vasquez. If I may also speak? Chen nodded again. Vasquez joined them on the platform. I'm a biologist, I study life, and I can tell you that every species in this chamber is a predator of some kind. You eat plants, which are living things. You consume insects, which are animals. You grow food in laboratories, but those cells came from somewhere. Everything alive must consume other life to survive. Humans are just more direct about it. She activated another hologram, showing the molecular structure of proteins. From a biological standpoint, there is no meaningful difference between plant protein and animal protein. Both are made of the same amino acids. Both sustain life. The only difference is in how we acquire them and how we feel about the acquisition. Kelm, the Vexian scientist, stood up. Dr. Vasquez makes an important point. My team has been studying human biology and culture for the past week. We've concluded that human dietary practices, while unusual, are neither immoral nor dangerous. They are simply different from our own. Furthermore, we've discovered that human cooking techniques are revolutionary. The application of controlled heat to transform ingredients has potential applications far beyond food preparation. Other scientists began to stand and voice their support. The tide was shifting. What had begun as a controversy was becoming a genuine academic and philosophical discussion. Then something unexpected happened. A message appeared on the main display screen. It was from the Felixian worker who had been traumatized by the meat jerky. He had recorded a statement. His face appeared, looking tired but calm. My name is Jax. I was the one who accepted the human food and suffered psychological shock. I wanted to speak directly to the council about my experience. The chamber fell silent. Everyone wanted to hear what he had to say. When Captain Rodriguez offered me the meat, I didn't know what it was. When I learned, I felt horror like nothing I'd experienced before. The idea that someone would kill an animal and then eat it seemed monstrous to me. Chen's heart sank. This testimony would doom them, but Jax continued. However, during my recovery, I had many conversations with human medical staff and counselors. They helped me understand their perspective. They didn't try to convert me or convince me to eat meat. They simply shared their worldview. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I will never eat meat. The idea still disturbs me personally, but I've come to understand that humans aren't monsters. They're people with a different relationship to nature than my species has. Captain Rodriguez wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to share something that meant something to her. That's not cruelty. That's just cultural difference. Jax leaned closer to the camera. I believe humans should remain in the Galactic Council, not despite their differences, but because of them. If we only accept species that think exactly like us, that act exactly like us, then we're not really a galactic community. We're just a club for the similar. Humans challenge us. They make us uncomfortable. But maybe that's exactly what we need. The message ended. The chamber erupted in discussion. Representatives argued with each other in dozens of languages. Chen stood on the platform, hardly daring to hope. The council chair called for order. We will now proceed to the vote. All in favor of maintaining humanity's membership in the Galactic Council? Lights appeared on the voting board as representatives registered their choices. Chen watched the numbers climb. Green for yes, red for no. The totals rose steadily. It was close, incredibly close. The undecided votes were splitting evenly. Chen held her breath as the final count approached. They needed a simple majority to remain. The last vote registered. The board displayed the final tally. By a margin of just 3 votes, humanity would remain in the Galactic Council. Chen felt her knees go weak with relief. David was cheering from the observer section. Dr. Vasquez smiled broadly. Captain Rodriguez wiped tears from her eyes. But the council chair raised a hand for silence. The vote has passed. However, there are conditions. Humanity will retain its membership, but restrictions will apply. Human foods containing animal products may not be offered to non-humans without explicit warning and consent. Human restaurants serving meat must be clearly marked and located only in designated cultural zones. Humans must provide cultural education programs to help other species understand their dietary practices. Chen nodded. We accept these conditions. Thank you for giving us this chance. The session ended, but representatives lingered to talk. Many came to Chen to offer congratulations or ask questions. Some remained hostile, but most seemed genuinely curious now. The fear was fading, replaced by interest. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. The first human cultural restaurant opened on a cosmopolitan space station. It was clearly marked with warnings about the menu. The owners expected maybe a few curious aliens to visit. Instead, they were booked solid for months in advance. Aliens wanted to try human food. They started with the plant-based dishes, of course. The complex flavors and innovative techniques amazed them. Some adventurous souls even tried meat dishes, approaching them as a daring cultural experience. Human chefs became celebrities. Cooking shows featuring human techniques became popular across the galaxy. Aliens couldn't eat most human food, but they loved watching it being prepared. The artistry, the care, the transformation of raw ingredients into something beautiful fascinated them. Chen watched all of this unfold with a sense of wonder. What had nearly destroyed humanity's place in the galaxy had instead become their most famous cultural export. Rodriguez's cargo ship was now licensed to transport specialty Earth foods across multiple systems. Dr. Vasquez led a team of researchers studying the intersection of human and alien cuisines. Even Kelm had become a regular consultant, helping to develop cooking techniques suitable for different species biologies. 6 months after the vote, Chen attended another diplomatic dinner. This time the menu had changed. Alongside the traditional nutrient pastes and synthesized proteins were new options. Human-style preparations of alien-safe ingredients. A Vexian diplomat tried a dish of roasted vegetables prepared with human techniques and looked amazed. "This is wonderful," he said to Chen. "I never knew food could taste like this. You've changed something fundamental about our culture." Chen smiled. "We just shared who we are. Thank you for being willing to learn." As she looked around the dining hall, she saw representatives from hundreds of worlds eating together, trying new foods, sharing new experiences. Humans were no longer the scary predators. They were the species that reminded the galaxy that being different wasn't something to fear. It was something to celebrate. Captain Rodriguez sent her a message that evening. "Ambassador, you should see the waiting list for Earth food tours. We've got aliens who want to visit Earth and see where our food comes from. Some even want to meet farmers and chefs. We're becoming the galaxy's most popular tourist destination." Chen laughed. Humanity had come so close to losing everything. Instead, they had gained something unexpected. Acceptance, not despite their differences, but because of them. The galaxy had learned to see humans not as monsters, but as people with a unique perspective worth understanding. And it had all started with a simple admission at a diplomatic dinner. Humans eat meat. What had seemed like humanity's greatest weakness had become their greatest strength. They had challenged the galaxy to grow, to expand its understanding of civilization, to accept that there were many ways to be intelligent and ethical. The galaxy was bigger now, more diverse, more interesting, and humans had helped make it that way, one meal at a time.